Hello, and welcome to your next lesson. Today we will review bubble charts in Microsoft Excel. A bubble chart is a variation of a scatter chart in which the data points are replaced with bubbles. An additional dimension of the data is represented by the size of the bubbles. Just like a scatter chart, a bubble chart does not use category axes. The horizontal and vertical axes are value axes. A bubble chart plots X values, Y values, and Z values, the Z value being the size of the bubble. We'll create a bubble chart today based on free throws and attempts for multiple Detroit Pistons players. The third dimension added by the bubble will represent points per game. Please open the Visual Data Worksheet and go to the Bubble Chart tab to follow along in this lesson. Okay, so here we are on our chart, and I have added the data for us to work with. Now I do want to mention that I'm only using 15 players for this exercise. With the bubble chart, you want to keep the data as small as possible because the bubbles tend to busy the chart up. So for that reason, I'm only using 15 players. Okay, so let's begin by saying Insert. Let's go to the chart areas. Let's go ahead and get the drop down for the scatter charts. Let's select bubble. Okay, and so you should have a blank chart on your screen. Let's go ahead and stretch it out a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and right click and I'm going to say select data. Now keep in mind you can also select data from your chart design. I'm just showing you a different path. Okay, so again, let's right click and say select data. Let's go ahead and say add. Okay, so for the series name, I'm going to just type free throw attempts. Okay, now let's place our cursor inside the X value. Let's go ahead and select cells G2 to G16. Let's place our cursor inside the Y value. Let's go ahead and select H2 to H16. Now we need to go ahead and get the data for our bubbles. Let's back this out and place our cursor inside of the bubble size. Now we're going to go ahead and select P2 to P16. Alright, now let's go ahead and say OK. And let's say OK again. Now as you can see, your bubbles are now on the screen. Okay, so next I would like to format my bubbles just to make it less busy. Let's go ahead and double click on our chart and the format options will open. Let's go ahead and get the drop down and select the series for free throw attempts. Okay, so let's select the bars and then go ahead and select width of bubbles. Okay, now here is where you can adjust the size of your bubble. You can take it up or you can take it down depending on your personal preference. I'm going to take mine to a 75. Now I also want to add labels so we can identify our bubbles. Let's go ahead and select the plus sign next to our chart. Let's go ahead and grab our labels, but let's say more options. Now when your format data options open up, let's go ahead and select the bars. Okay, and here's where I'm going to identify what I would like my bubbles to reflect. Okay, so let's go ahead and make sure X value and Y value is deselected. Let's select bubble size. Okay, so as you can see, it places my points per game on my bubble. Alright, now but I also would like to identify who this bubble belongs to. To place the full name would just make the chart too busy, so we're going to go ahead and add initials. Let's go ahead and select our separator. And let's go ahead and make sure we have a new line. Let's go ahead and select value from cells. And then let's go ahead and select cell C2 to C16 and say OK. So now your labels reflect the initials and the points per game for each player. So what I would like to do next is to go ahead and clean up some of these labels so they're not as scrunched. I'm going to go ahead and grab MP with 8.4 points per game, and I'm just going to drag that off to the side. And as you can see, my leader line indicates the bubble that this label belongs to. So we can clean this chart up by separating some of our labels whenever necessary, and the rest of them that are not scrunched up, we can leave them on the assigned bubbles. Let's take a look at a cleaned up chart, and then we'll go ahead and wrap up this lesson. Okay, so here we are on our cleaned up chart, and as you can see, I took full advantage of my leader lines whenever necessary. So JG and DR I left on the indicated bubble. I left BG on the indicated bubble, but I went ahead and separated MP. I went ahead and separated the rest of my players to avoid the scrunched up look and to give a clear idea of what label belongs to which player. Okay, and with that being said, we're going to go ahead and wrap up this lesson. I hope you found this information helpful. I will see you in the next video. Okay, so that wraps up this video. Job well done today. Be sure to save your work and then celebrate your accomplishments. Great job.